So again, just thank you to all of you who are willing to travel this path with us, and I'm going to turn it back to Nicole and Greg to really show you what we're here about today.
Thanks, Carla.
Thank you, Carla.
Oh, sorry.
I really appreciate that. This is Greg Smith. I'm the Executive Director of the Florida Literacy Coalition, and I want to echo Carla's remarks in terms of our appreciation that you all are interested in going down this road with us. We're really excited about having California libraries in our partnership with the California Library Literacy Services. Carla's been a real pleasure to work with, and as we roll this course out, and this really is a course that we've had for several years now, but we've just sort of upgraded it and kind of gone to a 2.0 version of it. And Nicole did a lot of the work in terms of reworking the course and giving it a whole new look and feel. But in addition to sort of the design elements and some improvements we were able to make in terms of the interactive piece, we're really excited about adding in the videos that you all have made available through California Library Literacy Services. They're a huge enhancement to the course, as you'll see, and I'm sure many of you are familiar with the videos. Look at the core components of reading, and we really think they're a fantastic fit for this course. We weren't able to include all of them, but we have a great cross-section of videos, and what we really like is that they not only demonstrate and share effective practices, but it really gives folks in our programs here in Florida are going to really benefit from this as well, an opportunity to see good instructional techniques modeled in a one-to-one setting. So we really appreciate our partnership with California Library Literacy Services, and look forward to our partnership with all of you as we go down this road together with programs here in Florida. I'm going to start by giving you a little bit of an overview of who we are. So if you can go ahead and advance the slide there.
Okay.
Just in terms of our, just who we are as an organization, we're a nonprofit organization that's been around since 1985 here in Florida, and we serve as the Adult and Family Literacy Resource Center here in Florida. We support a network of programs much like what California Library Literacy Services does in California. We have a variety of different kinds of providers here in Florida, and we certainly support school districts and state and community colleges, which are the largest providers, but we have a special focus on supporting community-based literacy, nonprofit organizations, library-based programs, and faith-based programs as well. And so we offer a lot of professional development, support services, resources. We have a state hotline. We do a conference annually. Our conference is going to be in May if anyone's interested in coming to sunny Florida, although that might be kind of a hard sell, and you all are already in sunny California there. But still, we're proud of the conference that we've been doing from the very beginning. It's usually about 450, 500 people in attendance, and we're going to be over in St. Pete next May. We also do a few initiatives, special initiatives in the areas of health literacy and financial literacy as well, where we're able to make grants available to support those efforts as well as resources to local programs. So if you're interested in learning a little bit more about our organization, please feel free to go to our website at floridaliteracy.org. In terms of this course, we've been doing it for several years. I kind of alluded to that earlier. We had a group of trainers come together and administrators several years ago, and we put together a work group to take a look at what was out there in terms of online courses for tutors, and what we might be able to do. We weren't able to find anything quite the right fit, so we decided to kind of go it on our own, but we did borrow heavily from Virginia and a few other places that had already started to kind of go down that road. We wanted to ground this in what was the need among our community-based, volunteer-based programs here in Florida, And we did hear back from them loud and clear that there was an interest in this area. A lot of them were struggling with recruiting enough volunteers to meet their needs. We have a lot of small organizations here that just don't have the capacity to offer trainings with enough frequency that really allows them to match tutors and students in an expeditious way. And so they'd have volunteers who were sometimes waiting, or potential volunteers that were waiting 3-4 months or longer in some cases before they were able to be trained. So we work with those programs to kind of build their capacity to bring.
Greg? Okay, I think we may have lost Greg. Greg, we can't hear you. Hang on one second, folks. Sorry about that, everyone. Just give us 1 minute. We're trying to figure out the problem with his audio. Okay, while we're waiting for him to get back on, I'm going to go over the agenda a little bit. After we talked with Greg a little bit about FLC course history, and he's going to talk a little bit more about blended learning. In your control panel, you should have a handouts section. Your handout should have the blended learning guide. Then we're going to look at the course. We're going to go over a little bit of what you can expect with technical support, and then a very brief facilitator overview, and then we'll do Q&A. Okay, so Greg is back, so we're going to go ahead and continue where we left off.
I'm not quite sure where we left off. Did you hear anything of what I said?
Yeah, so you're kind of at, you were in the middle of doing the thing with the, hold on 1 second.
I'm sorry, I was on my own computer, and it looks like we had a little bit of I had a bit of a technical issue. It seems like I dropped off there for you. So had I talked about the course at all? I'm not quite sure what you heard.
So you were about midway into the course. You told us about you told us a little bit about where we started. So you were just kind of towards the history of the course. So you're going to be you were about midway through talking about the history of the course. So they pretty much got a good idea of that.
Okay. Well, sorry about that, folks. And forgive me if I'm redundant at all, but we had a group of folks come together, trainers and tutors and administrators to give us guidance on this. The idea here is to provide an alternative to programs. Our local community-based literacy organizations were really interested in library-based programs. We're really interested in exploring options in terms of providing training remotely. And so they've had good success. This isn't for everybody. Online learning isn't for everybody, but for folks who are comfortable with it, it can be a good solution to provide a lot of the basic information. This will not be a standalone. This really needs to be a blended learning experience. And the content you'll see is fairly generic with respect to the fact that hopefully it's providing good strategies and resources, but certainly doesn't speak to anything specific to your programs in the curriculum that you're using. So this really needs to be part of a continuum of training that you offer, and certainly everything that has to do with your matching process and the resources that you're able to provide to your tutors and students, your evaluation process. None of that really is covered. We do touch on the roles and goals here, so there's that tie-in, but for the most part, the program-specific stuff will be something that you'll need to do individually with tutors, and we really recommend that you do it in a face-to-face environment if you're able to do that. We found that the programs here in Florida that have used it really are advantaged if they utilize this in conjunction with having either individual or preferably group sessions with their tutors, or at least a session, so that they can cover a lot of that content as well. I mean, there's really good research out there that shows that a blended learning approach really is more effective than just having an online course, and we've very intentionally structured this right from the beginning as a facilitated course, so that folks aren't just going in and sort of doing it when they have the chance to do it, because we find that a lot of times folks don't do that. So by having a facilitator and I know many of you will be facilitators, will be sort of shepherding folks through the course, making assignments, leading discussions, that really adds to the enrichment of the course, and we do see much better completion rates when we do that as well. So, so with that, I'll turn it back over to Nicole.
Thank you, Greg. Okay, so we're going to do a quick poll. All right, so this poll is asking, have you ever taken or facilitated an online course? So I'll go ahead and post that and give you a couple minutes to answer. Okay, a lot of you are putting in, most of you seem to have one answer here. Okay. All right, I think most people have voted, so I'm going to go ahead and post the results for you guys. Okay. So as you can see, for the most part, you guys have taken an online course but have not facilitated. That's fine. With our next webinar, we're going to go into a lot more detail about facilitating an online course if that is what you're doing. And we should have some additional resources for you as well. Okay. All right, so now we're going to go into the new course, which is what I know you guys are probably waiting for. So I'll go ahead and get in there. Okay, so you should see the home page. This is what the welcome screen looks like. There might be a little bit of a delay, and I apologize for that ahead of time. So as you can see right here in the middle of the screen, there's a course orientation. I'm not logged in yet. You do not have to be logged in order to see this video. So if you're having somebody enter the course and they just want information on it, they can watch that video, and it should have all the information they need in order to figure out how to log in and all that stuff. This video is a little bit grainy. We're looking at getting a different screencast type of software to make it a little clearer, but this one will serve our purposes for now. Okay, now I'm gonna walk you through logging in. So in the top corner, you just hit the login button, and it should show you this screen right here. And you just with the login screen, you have a create a new account section over here on the right. So you click create new account, and it'll bring you to this form. So you just fill out this form in its entirety, and then it will give you a confirmation email with a link in it. This is all described in more detail in the orientation video. So I'm not going to go into too much detail about it right now. So for logging in, you just simply log in, put your username and password. I'll just put my stuff in. And it'll bring you to the same welcome screen, but this time you have the course categories at the bottom, as you see over here. So you guys are going to want to go to the California Library Literacy Services. You click that, and it'll bring you a list of courses. Right now we don't have any courses on here, but once I get your information and we start doing the courses for each library, you'll see a list of courses here. And we do customize it, so your logo will appear just as this one appears. Below that, at the end of it, it's going to be a California Library Literacy Services discussion forum. So this discussion forum is going to be available to you guys whether you took the course or not. Well, you have to be enrolled in the course at least. And once you've enrolled in the course, you're going to have access to this forum permanently. Okay, so I just started off with a little discussion, a welcome. So you could just add a new discussion topic. You can discuss on mine, you can reply. So it's just a basic forum. All right, so going back to this page, let's actually go in and look at the course. So this is going to be your page. There's some more customization on this page that we won't go into right now, but again, in the follow-up webinar, we're going to have all that information. Here you're going to have the actual training course, and underneath you're going to have some discussion forums for the course, their activities or their assignments. So we're going to enter into the course. And depending on your bandwidth, your internet speed, and the browser you're using, it's going to be a little, it might change. The speeds might change a little bit on that. Okay, so here in this corner you have this arrow button. If you press it, it will dock this. It will dock this right here on the side. Make that disappear, and then your course will be larger. All right, so I'm going to let you hear a snippet of the course, a snippet of the audio, just so you have a good idea.
Welcome to the Florida Literacy Coalition online tutor training. Working in conjunction with your local literacy organization, this comprehensive training will provide you with information, tools, resources, and practical tips for helping your adult learner meet his or her literacy goals. Please take a few minutes to review the outline of the training course content.
Okay, so that is that's the audio. So we have audio through most of the slides. There are some slides that don't have audio. That's how it was in our last course, and we are considering changing that. We're considering getting in some more voice actors to maybe fill in those spots. But that's going to be a phase 2. All right, so to navigate, you just simply press the button that says next, and it goes to your next slide. Okay, so this is just a getting started slide.
Achievement-based objectives. By the end of the online tutor training workshop, you will have completed readings and engaged in learning tasks about working with adult learners, learner assessment, creating lesson plans, teaching reading, and teaching writing. Completed readings and activities and learned teaching strategies to help adult English learners with reading, writing, and conversation skills.
Okay. So I'll just show you a couple of more slides. We have your literacy statistics page. This is specific to California. And then we have the Literacy Matters page. This is a learner story. And now I'm going to navigate to a couple of more of the in-depth slides. You can also go to this, go to the outline over here on the left-hand side, and you can navigate to specific slides from there. If you have a certain module that you want to jump to quickly, you could just click on that module and it'll bring it up. So these are a couple of slides that we have here for experience-based learning. I know there's a bit of a delay, so I'm trying to make sure you guys can all see it. All right, and I'll give you a little sample of, let's see, I'm going to go to the learning disabilities section. Somebody did ask a question about learning disabilities earlier. I know this probably isn't the right forum to answer a question on learning disabilities, but I will go to the learning disabilities section just so you could take a look at.
This module concerns the topic.
Sorry, just so you can take a look at where you can possibly find your answer.
It is based on the book by Ricky Goldstein entitled Taking the Mystique Out of Learning Disabilities. Learners with learning disabilities have striking abilities and talents, but struggle with literacy skills, have a permanent biological neurological dysfunction, suffer deficits in perception, visual and auditory sequencing, spatial relations, and/or memory, have processing deficits reflected in language, organizational, and reasoning problems. Challenges for learners with learning disabilities include the following: problems in processing information including visual, auditory, spoken, or written material, problems with immediate memory, rote memory, memory for words, and memory for sequences, difficulties.
Okay, so that's an example of one of these modules. This is actually a sub-module of Module 5. Let me show you a little bit about the interactivity that we have here. Let's see. Sorry, it's taking a second.
Be aware that your students may view.
Lower that volume a little bit. Okay, so this is our differences in culture quiz. This is just a fun little exercise. It's not meant to be a graded quiz or anything like that, but it's like a drag and drop, so I'll just take a box from here and put it to the correct, to the correct answer on the right-hand side. Here we go. And see if you get it, if they get it wrong, it'll just bounce right back. So it's just something to show the differences in culture. And then they submit that, and it's not graded, so I didn't pass. That's because I didn't even try. So okay. So now I'm going to show you a couple of the 4 components of reading. I'm going to give you an example of one. We'll start with alphabetics. These are the videos that California Library Literacy Services are letting us use so graciously. So I'm going to just share about 1 minute and 45 seconds of this first video. And again, I have to emphasize there is a little bit of a delay on it. But this should really showcase kind of the demonstration videos that you can expect to see throughout the course. So there are quite a few of them too. So I'll just let you watch this video.
Phonemic awareness is the ability to perceive and manipulate individual sounds. It is essential for successful phonics instruction and for learners to be able to use phonics to identify words as they read and to spell words as they write. Phonemic awareness must be learned through reading and writing. It's not just acquired naturally. The National Reading Panel has identified 6 tasks for phonemic awareness assessment and instruction. Phoneme isolation. phoneme identity, phoneme categorization, phoneme blending, phoneme segmentation, phoneme deletion. You can ask your learner to complete these tasks to see if there is a need for you to work on developing phonemic awareness. You can use these same tasks for phonemic awareness practice either with or without letter or word cards.
So Jonathan, we've been working a lot around sounds of letters. I know that you know the name of every letter, but every letter has a unique sound. We're going to do an exercise here that will help you identify and know what the sound of the letter is. Not the name, but the sound. And when you see that letter in words you've never seen before, it'll help you sound them out better and understand what that word might be. Okay? Good. Okay, so tell me the first sound that you hear in the word make. Good. Okay, so we'll leave that there. So the delay, I do want to point out that the delay in the video that you're seeing is actually just the GoToWebinar delay. When you're actually taking the course, the video should play without problem. So there's also a link down here that says Learn More. If there are additional videos in Phonemic Awareness, we'll have a link to it. So when you click the link, it'll bring up a PDF with links to the other videos. And you can navigate down here on the left-hand side just to go from video to video. Let me lower that volume first, I'm sorry. And it'll take you from video to video. Okay. So let me briefly go over what modules you can expect to see. The module number 1 is just an introduction to the course. Module number 2 is going to go over some literacy statistics, and this is specific to California. Module 3 is who are the adult learners, so it just kind of shows who the tutor can expect will be in their classroom, and that involves the cultural differences and the not the learning disabilities, I'm sorry, that's in a different one. Experience-based learning, I went over that briefly. We have the learning styles as module 5. We have goal setting. The goal setting module does include roles and goals. Module 7 is the 4 components of reading. Module 7 is going to be the longest module. It's going to have all 4 components of reading. It's going to have the video demonstrations within it, and it's going to also have some additional information and resources in there. So that by far is going to probably take your tutors the longest to get through, but it's worth it because the videos are very good. Module 8 touches on writing, and then the last one is the learner profile and the lesson planning activity. So the lesson planning activity is going to be the last assignment here in the course. So just waiting for it to show up. Okay, so here we have a short blog on the lesson planning activity. So this is just a little bit of information for lesson planning just to make them a little bit more comfortable with it. And then they'll go on to choose a learner profile. So they'll choose a learner and they will write a lesson plan according to their strengths, their personal goals, and maybe their weaknesses as well. In addition to the lesson planning portion, there is also going to be some small assignments throughout. There are discussion topics, so you'll see something like this. It says discussion break. So it'll give you a prompt, or it'll give your tutor a prompt, and they will read that and then navigate back to the course. There's also a way to navigate through that on the left-hand side as well. That's explained further in the orientation video. And then you'll go to the module in which you had the discussion prompt. And then I'll give the prompt again, and they can add a new discussion topic. As a facilitator, you are expected to add the first discussion topic just to get it going. Okay. So for the actual lesson plan, this is a good time to talk about it. So for the lesson plan assignment, we have always had it so that they submit the lesson plan to the facilitator at the end of the course. We had some feedback from our organizations saying that they would perhaps like to see a quiz at the end of the course. So that's another thing I'd like to maybe put out to you guys, if the quiz is something that you would like to see, or if you like the idea of the lesson plan as well.
And we understand you haven't taken the course, but just kind of conceptually, we want to have some sort of wrap-up piece, and it's nice to be able to get some assurances or reassurance that folks have absorbed the information and so forth. So the quiz, a little quiz at the end that would review some of the content might be advisable. Up to this point, we've only had the lesson plan piece in addition to the feedback that facilitators get through discussion, of course, and you can put questions out separate, and we encourage you to engage in conversation and put questions out and have dialogue around that. But the concept of having a little quiz at the end, we are interested in your feedback on whether you think that would be a useful tool to have.
Okay, so I'm going to launch a small poll like the last one I did. Just it's going to be on the final assignment. How would you like to complete the course? So you should see that up there now, and I'll give you a minute to answer that. Okay, I'll give you a couple more seconds. You should be pretty much good. Okay, it looks like everyone has voted, or mostly everyone has voted. So we're going to go ahead and share the results with you guys. Okay, so this result is very much like our organization's, both the lesson plan and this assignment and the quiz. So that's definitely something we're going to consider when we do the phase 2 on this course.
Yeah, we'll be adding a quiz. I think this is sort of an overwhelming response.
Yeah, it's been kind of overwhelming.
So.
All right. Okay, so I did have a question. I had a question, so I'm going to answer that really quickly. Hold on, if I can figure out how to get it open. There it is. Okay, so Jeanette Gamble asked, have you mentioned the estimated time for completing the course? No, I did not mention it just yet, actually, but it is 9 hours roughly. I say 9 hours. Technically, it's 8 and about 45 minutes with all the audio and the discussions and the final assignment, but safely I'd say 9 hours. Normally when we facilitate the course, we ask that people commit about 3 to 4 hours a week on the course, and it's usually over the course of 3 weeks. So 3 to 4 weeks. Depends on the time of year as well.
And we do that very intentionally in that we found that it's advantageous for us to have kind of a real sort of set time frame on these courses, giving folks enough time to sort of do it when they're available to do it. That's certainly one of the big advantages to online learning, but it's not real open-ended. So in the beginning, when we tried a longer timetable, 6-7 weeks, it wasn't quite as effective as when we kind of narrowed it back down to about 3 3 to 4 weeks. Now, of course, that's ultimately your decision to make as facilitators, but that's what's worked well for our programs, and folks really have a good idea as to how much time to commit. 3 hours a week, 3 to 4 hours a week is something that a lot of the volunteers certainly can fit into their schedule, especially since there's a lot of flexibility in how to do that.
Okay, so I hope I answered your question there. Let me see. Okay. Lolitha, I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly. You asked, can potential tutors complete these modules independently, or does a cohort have to do them at the same time? We suggest a group of tutors to do them together so that they can discuss. It's not unheard of for it to be done by one person, but it's really advantageous to everyone to have a group doing it, or at least having a facilitator help out with the discussions and things of that nature.
And we do have a few of our smaller programs that do very small groups, 2 or 3. So one of the good advantages of this approach, I guess, is that you don't have to have, your 10 or 20 people in order to mount a workshop. You can do it in smaller groups. So that really depends on how you all want to do it. The advantage of having having more people is that there's more interaction there, and folks feel sort of part of a group, part of a cohort. That's part of what we want to encourage. So if you're doing it with 2 or 3 people, obviously that's diminished to some degree. But the practical element of getting people started in a relatively short time frame, really is a huge factor for many programs as well. So it really has a lot to do with your schedule. Some of our programs have utilized this as their main source of training. Others sort of use it as needed, especially for folks who want to get started and they're not going to be doing another training for another 2 months or what have you. So it really it has the ability to kind of meet the needs of your program, and really leave it up to you all to decide on how best to structure it.
Okay, so I'm going to briefly just go over what you can expect as a facilitator. There's customization options. Like I mentioned earlier, you can change the logo. You can't change the logo on the actual course page where a bulk of their work is going to be done. That's going to be the California Library Literacy Services logo. But on your actual course page, you'll be able to add a logo and add any descriptor of your library. Reporting and tracking, there are lots of reporting options, and I'll go into it in greater detail when we do the facilitator training, and some other administrative functions you can expect. So the platform that we use for this, I don't know if you guys are familiar with this, but it's Moodle. It has a lot of options for us. We can do a lot of we can pull reports of people who how many tutors you've had in the course, how much time they've spent in it, what assignments they've completed, and so there's quite a bit we can do there. Okay, but again, we're going to go over that next week in greater detail. So I do want to let you know really quickly that there's a survey that we offer for feedback. We do it with our organizations, so we have just like a 5-question survey to get some feedback from the course. So that survey is going to be available to you guys. Again, this is something that we're going to go over in greater detail in the facilitator orientation or training. So, but that's just something that I want to throw out there that is available to us.
And you all will have access to that data as well, in terms of so you can take a look at the evaluation results and and then tweak things accordingly if there's anything. It's useful for us to know. Get feedback overall, but certainly a lot of the programs have found it helpful too in terms of getting finding out what their tutors ultimately think of this learning experience, and if there's gaps that need to be addressed, then that's a way to do it as well.
Mm-hmm. And finally, there's the technical support aspect. We will be providing technical support. The facilitators are going to act as kind of the first line of defense. So you as facilitators will field some of these questions, the ones that you can deal with. Anything that you guys can't, that you don't have the ability to or don't know how to answer, you can send that over to me, and I have the host of the actual website who can help us with the really big problems. But for the most part, we here at FLC will be fielding any of your technical support issues. And we've been doing it for a while now for our current course and the new course a little bit. So we have most of the technical problems that arise have already arisen a little bit, and we have been able to take care of all of it. So.
And a lot of the stuff is stuff that you all will probably be able to troubleshoot, because
yes,
people just have a hard time signing in. They misunderstand something in terms of that process and what have you. So.
Yeah, I do notice a lot of the technical issues tend to be surrounded with the misunderstanding, and this is the kind of thing where they have to receive the email, click the confirmation link. So especially a tutor who isn't as tech savvy may have a little bit of trouble understanding why the email's coming to them, or how to go about signing into the course. But for the most part, I think everyone should be okay with this. All right. So just a quick reminder, the facilitator training is going to be December 16th at 12 o'clock p.m. your time. Yeah. All right. So we're going to talk a little bit about something we're going to add on to the course. So let me let Greg tell you a little bit about that.
Well, this is something we'll potentially add on. We wanted to get your feedback. We're looking to, and there would be certainly no additional cost or anything, but we'd like to maybe add on a video conferencing component to this that would essentially allow for you all to schedule a video conference if you'd like, either having a sort of a two-way teleconferencing kind of thing with your participants, workshop participants, or offering maybe a mini instructional session or webinar, something along those lines. So we've been utilizing this system, and it's actually not the one we're using for this webinar right now. It's got fewer bells and whistles than the GoToWebinar, which we're using for this session, but it's really super easy to use. It's called Join Me, and it's very intuitive, and it's very easy, especially for the participants to access. You essentially just send them a website or URL, and they just click on that, and then you have a sort of a screen sharing. You can have your sort of PowerPoint or whatever your presentation tool is up there, and you don't have to show your whole screen. You can just show what you'd like to be able to share. And so we wanted to just get your feedback. We're looking to add that, and the way it would work is we just have a little scheduling tool here if you were interested in doing that. We're not going to purchase accounts for everybody in our system. We're just going to have this sort of dedicated to the course, and folks would just schedule that, and we would send you the necessary information to sign in. There's a little bit of software you have to download onto your computer as a host, but it's relatively quick. It only takes about 30 seconds to download, and it doesn't take up a whole lot of space on your computer. So we wanted to get your feedback, though, because we didn't want to go down this road if you already have tools that you're using that you find to be very effective and easy to use, or if maybe it's something you're just not interested in. So we're going to go ahead and post this poll. If you could just give us your feedback as to whether you feel this would be a useful add-on.
All right, we'll give you guys a couple of seconds to answer this.
Okay, great. So we'll post that.
Okay, we have a couple more, I think. Oh, we have some more coming in. Hold on.
Okay.
All right. I think that's about it. I don't see anyone else posting. Oh, there we go. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and close the poll.
Okay, well, it looks like high majority of folks like the idea and would welcome having access to join me. So we'll go ahead and proceed with that. Thank you for your feedback on that. We really appreciate it. Certainly not something you're required to use, but you know, it really lends itself to this whole blended learning approach. As much as you can be interactive and create that sort of that learner cohort, you know, all the better. And we haven't done this, we're just adding this piece in, but we have traditionally had a conference call at the end of the session, which is very useful, and we would encourage you all to either use this tool or just use a regular conference call service to have some communication with folks. And it's always good to hear from them and to have, you know, a little bit of interaction through to sort of more of a conversational interaction with your students that are participating in the course. So so thank you for your feedback on that.
Okay, so now we're going to do something a little bit unusual. We're going to do a Q&A. We will, I'm going to offer this to everyone who wants to speak. If you raise your hand, if you have a question, I know there are a couple in the box, but if anyone wants to say their question out loud, just go ahead and raise your hand and I can unmute you. Or you can put it in the question box and I will answer it that way. So let me go ahead and, while people are screwing up their courage, I will answer some of these questions. Okay. All right. Okay. Okay, so this one is from Lalitha. Would there be a face-to-face meetings plus online meetings? So,
you want me to field that one?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, yes, we really encourage you to, if you can, to have a face-to-face meeting. Now, we offer this actually at FLC sort of statewide, and we also, you know, offer it to local programs to host their own. So when we're doing something on a statewide basis, it's really not practical for us to have a face-to-face meeting. But if you're doing this locally, we really strongly encourage you to have a face-to-face meeting where folks get to meet you. Maybe they get to see your library, your facility. You know, anytime you can. It's hard to replicate that piece. And you know, there's pros and cons to doing a face-to-face training versus an online training, and we're really hoping that you can kind of find a happy medium there and take advantage of some of the advantages of being able to have and the flexibility to be able to have an online experience and then to augment that and add to that with a face-to-face. So what programs have done is, you know, they've done an orientation or they do an orientation with sort of an end of course gathering. You know, really depends on what you're doing, but what you're able to do is kind of get a lot of that core stuff out of the way so that you're not dedicating 8 or 10 or 12 hours. I don't know, depending on what your trainings are, but you can do that in a much shorter period. But anything that you're sharing that has to do with the specifics of your program, you know, we would encourage you to think about other ways to share that in addition to sort of the online opportunities through the course. And face-to-face is a great way to do it. This video conferencing will also be another alternative for that.
Okay, so we have one person so far who would like to have the floor. Robin Raphael, I'm going to unmute you. So please let me know. You can start talking when I unmute you, and just let us know if you can be, so we can tell you if you can be heard. Robin?
Hello.
Hi. There's a bit of feedback. Robin? Okay, Robin, it doesn't seem like we can hear you, unfortunately.
I can type my question.
Hey, Robin, unfortunately, it's a little bit, you're having a little bit of feedback, so and we can't really hear you that well.
Okay, I'll type it.
Let's try one more time. Okay, Robin, go ahead and try one more time.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, yeah. We can hear you now.
We can hear you. For the rest of the attendees, if you're having trouble hearing her, you might just want to raise the volume on your speaker. That's kind of what we did. All right, go ahead, Robin.
So my question is, would they be doing the online course at home?
Okay, I'm sorry. I think it's our mic that's very powerful and it's picking up everything. So I'm gonna mute myself and then I'll allow you to talk. Okay, hold on. Okay, all right, Robin. Go ahead and start talking. I'll mute myself.
I'm sorry.
Can anyone hear me? This is Carla.
All right, sorry about that, guys. Sorry, that was our microphone. Okay, so maybe we will maybe we'll just stick to doing the questions box. I think that was a little bit of an experiment. So
Technology.
Yeah. So okay. So
I'm gonna repeat that one.
Yeah, I'm gonna repeat the question. I just answered a question in full, pretty much. So we're gonna try it again. Okay. So the question that comes from Robin: can new tutors do this at home? If yes, how does this work with the facilitator? So yes, the tutors can do this at home, but like we said earlier, needs to be a face-to-face component with this. So, or it's meant to have a face-to-face component, whether it's an orientation or a full training. The facilitator, in addition to the face-to-face training, will also communicate with the tutors via email and via the discussion posts and kind of keep everyone on track that way. So
yeah, the facilitators are in a lot of ways sort of a cheerleader, and as well as you might just need to remind folks once in a while and kind of keep them on track. So you're there to kind of answer questions, have some discussions, be a resource for folks as they're going through this. And one thing I did want to mention, just sort of as an aside, is that all this content will be available to tutors after they complete the course. And so please, as facilitators, share that with them. because that is one advantage to online learning, at least in this kind of structure, because and some of you may have had tutors. I've kind of been in that role myself as a new tutor, that that you feel a little overwhelmed in the beginning after you take a training, and sometimes folks are taking that training without even really having a good context for who their student is, and what they're going to primarily be focused on, or what level they're going to start at, and so forth. So they can go back in and revisit any of this content moving forward. So that will hopefully provide them with a little peace of mind that they don't have to absorb it all in the beginning. They can kind of take it as they need it. Although we definitely would like them to touch on all of it in the beginning and go through the full course. And as a facilitator, you'll kind of help guide them through that process.
All right, and the next question comes from Ann Bailey. Is there a course component that helps learners with their writing skills? The second to last module, I believe it's module 8, that is a writing module. It doesn't go too in depth, and it's not specifically for the students. It's for the tutors who are going to be working with the students. So it's not too long. It's about 3 or 4 slides, but there are excellent resources within that module. So if you want more information on writing, we have 2 webinars there that are an hour long each by Jamie Adelson Goldstein.
Right, from California.
Yeah, you guys may know her. She's fantastic, and there's some great writing resources there. And of course, our website also has a lot of resources that you can use. Okay, let's see. So Judy Quicken, I'm sorry again for the pronunciation. Can we log into the course to review it? So I'm going to be giving everyone an enrollment key after this webinar. I'm going to send out an email to everyone who attended with an enrollment key. So you guys can log on and you can start playing around with it before the facilitator course, so you'll have a little bit better footing for the next webinar, and you'll know kind of how the course is supposed to look, or how you're supposed to navigate through it.
In fact, we would ask you to do that. Sort of a little mini assignment here, that if you are going to be a facilitator and attending that session, please do go on, at least log on and take a look at it. Make sure you have access. And if you have any access issues, certainly email Nicole and she'll help you through that.
Yes. Okay, Carla asked, are the units sequential, or can you ask the participants to do a particular unit only without having completed the previous units? Yes. So this course can be freely moved through. So you can skip units. However, you're probably going to be able to tell through your tutor's discussions or your volunteers' discussions exactly who gets it. And you can also tell through the reports how much time they've been spending in the course. So, but yeah, they can go back to certain modules. If you want to reference a certain module or a video, you can tell them, go to the alphabetics slide, and they'll be able to access that without a problem.
And certainly as facilitators, however you want to structure the course, if you want to introduce one component before another, and it's not sort of sequentially the way that we have it here, absolutely. You just make that assignment, and you're free to do that however you'd like.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Alan Archer asked, are there costs for the programs to use the online tutor training? Nope, we don't charge.
Well, I mean, the California State Libraries right. Is sponsoring this effort, and so absolutely there's no. Unless Carla would want to chime in on this, whether there's anything else, but to our knowledge, there's no additional cost. You will be able to use this as frequently as you would like between now and I think it's June 30th, which is sort of when the pilot project's going to come to a completion. So,
yeah, Greg, this is Carla. I would just say. This is yet one more thing you guys can thank our state librarian for. He agreed to fund this through the grant that I write every year, and to get it extended. I mentioned this earlier, but those of you who came in late, in order to get the grant extended into a new year, we're going to need to know, not me, but my replacement is going to need to know how well it's going and what you recommend in the spring. So that's why we need you to jumpstart on this and get started at least in January, if you can, so that we have some experience and can make some decisions about continuing a contract with Greg and Nicole through the Florida Literacy Coalition to allow this to continue to be available for free for you guys and to hopefully bring on some new libraries. So this is your federal library services and technology dollars at work, thanks to the state librarian.
Thank you, Carla, for speaking to that a little bit. Okay, so our next question is from David Lewis. For those programs who have outside funding and can serve more than just reading and writing students, are there components in the training that address tutoring students who need to improve English speaking and listening skills? If not, can they be added?
Well, we have an ESOL course. We have not completed the revisions to it yet. We understood from Carla that there through the libraries that there were certain sort of restrictions with respect to that. I know I'm assuming through your question that there at the local level maybe there aren't that level of restriction. So we'd be happy to talk with you individually about that. Again, the course that has the ESOL component really is an expansion on this course. It has most of the same components as the literacy course, but then adds in the language acquisition piece. So we'd be happy to talk with you and work with you on that.
Okay, Carla asked, is the online training tablet/phone friendly? I have tested it on the iPhone and it works. It's not ideal just because the screen's a lot smaller. It's harder to read some things, but it does work. I have not yet tested it on a tablet, but that's something I can let you guys know once I do that.
Yeah, the software that we're using is supposed to be tablet friendly, so we'll check on that. That's a good question, because the tablet definitely should be a good alternative. The phone, it would be a bit of a challenge unless you have one of those really large iPhones.
Galaxies.
Yeah, or Galaxies.
Okay. Wendy Batstone, how long have you been using this program in Florida, and what feedback have you gotten? I'll let Greg speak to that.
Yeah, I think we started it in right around 2011-12 range, and so we've been using it for a few years. But this is again a new version of it. The other course was built strictly in Moodle. This one actually was designed in another third-party. What was it called? The authoring software. What's the software that we used? Articulate, right? So. So it was Articulate is an authoring program that really gives us some enhancements in terms of the presentation, in terms of the interactivity, the design mode, and so forth. So and then of course, as I mentioned, we've added some content. First and foremost, the videos from California, but we've added some other content as well. So we're in kind of a new phase here. But the version 1, we did get good feedback on. A number of different programs, as we indicated earlier, have used it, continue to use it. Really depends on their circumstances. Some of them use it as their primary means of training tutors, and others use it sort of to support that process and and train tutors who may very well identify themselves and would. Some people just like the idea of doing this, and their schedules really preclude them from being able to go to a traditional, one-to-one or face-to-face, not one-to-one, I should say, but face-to-face traditional training. So this gives you some options. So what the programs have found is that they have been able to be more responsive to volunteers, getting them trained more quickly. And generally have had pretty good feedback on it. We've had some folks who really love it, and some folks have gone in and go, well, this is not really close enough to what our training is. And that's part of the judgment that you all have to make, whether these components are close enough to what you want to make sure that your folks leave with. These are aligned to the Pro Literacy trainer certification process, so we use that as our guideline in developing the course in terms of what a good adult literacy tutor training course should look like. But again, it's not everything that you would necessarily include, and certainly anything that you want to talk about that's specific to a curriculum or various curriculums that you might use would not be addressed in this course.
Okay, so Jeanette Gamble has a question. Okay, let's see. It's a long one. Let's see. Okay. All right, so Jeanette had a comment that it's been a great introduction. Thank you. Seems it will be very useful for the tutor and trainer in the rural area. Looking forward to the part 2. Okay, we are looking forward to giving the part 2. And most everyone's is the audio, questions about the audio. Let's see. Okay, so Carrie Jones asked, do you have examples of blended agendas that other programs have used? What are covered in person, X hour? Any examples of some of the discovered best practices? Actually, I did include a handout, and that's going to be the blended learning teacher's guide. So that goes in depth about what some best practices and also how many hours you should do. Really, it depends on your tutor training, I would say. Some people like to do mostly in-person training and a little bit of an online component. Some organizations do an orientation and more of an online component. So I think that kind of varies from
program to program. But I think I think you have a good suggestion here. Well, it's a question, but I'm going to turn it into a suggestion. I think it's a good one because we haven't kind of collected across programs sort of the agendas or the format in which they've included this. We've gotten a lot of sort of anecdotal feedback from them with respect to how they're doing it. But I can certainly see the value of maybe offering, or at least seeing if we can get a little bit more information in terms of the programs that have utilized it to give us a little bit, a little bit more information as to how they've incorporated it into their training. I would say that with some degree of certainty that most of the programs that are using it kind of use the full training, and that's sort of what we encourage, but you don't have to. You can certainly assign things as you feel they're appropriate, especially if you're going to be complementing them with an in-person training. And the bottom line to this is, it really, the greatest advantage to this is that it gives people the flexibility of doing this in the comfort of their own living room. And so while there's some other advantages in terms of being able to revisit the content and so forth, that's really the primary one. So programs, and we have a lot of snowbirds here in Florida and so forth that may very well want a refresher when they've come back after they've been away for a while. Those kinds of things where they can kind of go back in and look at it. But that's a good suggestion. We'll take a look at that and see if we can get some additional feedback on how programs have utilized this, to complement what they're doing in person.
Okay, Rebecca Elder asked, I noticed that the word teaching was included in the training. Is everyone comfortable with that versus coaching? We normally use the word teaching or tutoring. Mostly we use tutoring, we use the word learner. If you guys have a different word that you use, I'd be more than happy to change that. We can talk a little bit more to Carla about that.
And I guess a little clarification on that. Are you talking about the relationship of the volunteer teacher or tutor and the title that they're using, or are you talking about sort of your role in coaching the tutors themselves?
Right. So you can email me about that privately if you want to elaborate a little bit more. But there is some flexibility there. I can change certain words. Instead of student, I can put in volunteer or coach or whatever you guys want. But I'll talk to Carla about that as well. Okay. Okay, so if you're registered for the webinar, do you automatically get registered for the December 16th? Yes. I do put in all the registrations manually, so if you haven't gotten it yet, if you just registered for this webinar within the past few days, you may not have gotten it yet, but you will get it probably today or tomorrow. You should get that registration. I think I'm only going to allow the people who have registered for this webinar to do the facilitated webinar. If you guys want to group together, that's fine as well.
And we understand that everybody on this webinar is not a facilitator, but we're probably just going to go ahead and send it to everybody, and those who are planning to be facilitators, certainly, go ahead and respond to it, because if you're not going to be a facilitator, you probably don't want to go through the details of the back end of this, which is really where the focus is going to be with that particular session.
Okay, and I think this is the last question. Sure, go ahead. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Carla, I was just going to say that just a reminder, however, is that I've asked all of you to have a minimum of 2 staff facilitators. And you can have more than that, and you can have volunteer facilitators as well. So just be sure that at least 2 staff people participate next week in the webinar.
Okay, so we have one more question from Vidya. Is there any training for facilitators to best match tutors with potential students? We don't have anything like that in our current course. There are resources on our website.
And we've done we've done a workshop or 2 around that over the years, but that kind of is a little bit outside the scope of the course. I don't know, Carla, if you have any resources you use in California in terms of sort of that matching process.
I would recommend that questions like that you should call nearby literacy programs or have that as a conversation, a discussion at your regional literacy network meeting, or send a message asking for tips on that to the big CLLS listserv. And if you don't know how to do any of those things, just send me an email, carla.lane@library.ca.gov, and I'm happy to hook you up with that, because the best experts on that are your colleagues, many of whom are on this call today.
And the one thing I would add is this approach, if you decide to use the course, it does give you the flexibility to have sort of a session, a follow-up session, and we'd really recommend you consider doing so after folks have completed the course and after you've done the matching. So it might not speak to the actual process of how do you go about matching a particular tutor to a student, but people, all of you, I'm sure, who've been in this for a while, or you don't even have to have been in it for too long to know that there's a lot of questions that come up once that match has been made, and once a tutor and student have had a chance to meet together for a few times, and that's really what kind of triggers a lot of questions. And so this approach kind of gives you the flexibility to have that in-person gathering, added on, and not having tutors feel like, well, I got to go back for another 3 hours on top of the 10 hours I've already spent over there, kind of thing. So so there's an advantage there to really kind of planning your, timing that interaction with the tutors, and having some sort of follow-on session or kind of added PD opportunity after that match has been made.
All right, so I think that's it for the questions. So thank you everyone for joining us today. we'd like to give a special thanks, of course, to California Library Literacy Services for helping support the updated course, and the Florida Department of Education Division of Career and Adult Education, and AmeriCorps Vista. I was actually a Vista when I started developing the course.
Right.
So.
Yay! I'm an old Vista too.
Okay.
Great.
All right, so so that about wraps it up for today. I know a lot of people are starting to sign out already.
Okay.
So please visit our website if you want to see any of those resources at www.floridaliteracy.org, and I will be sending everyone an email with the enrollment key after this webinar.
And one just closing remark, we want your feedback. This is something that we can go in and improve as and plan to over time. This is our sort of rollout of our 2.0 version. So if you're having any glitches, certainly let us know. But certainly also on the content side, we're certainly welcome your feedback, and we really look forward to working with all of you, and we'd love to hear what you think. The good and the not so good or bad, depending on how your experience goes. We don't see this as sort of a fixed in place kind of course. We want to improve it over time, and the best way for us to do that is to do that through your feedback. So thank you again for participating in this pilot project, and thank you, Carla, for making it all possible.
Thanks everybody for joining us today. We'll see you next week at the same time.
Okay.
Yep.
Take care.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Can we still chat for a minute? Or
Sure.
We still have some attendees here.
Oh, okay. We can call you, Carla. You want us to just give you a call?
Sure. I'm at a different number though. I'm at 530-758-7804.
758-7804. Okay, I'll give you a call right back.
Thank you.